Director of the Center for Social Innovation here at the Graduate School of Business, and I want to welcome you all to the GSB and to Urban Studies 131 Social Innovation and Social Entrepreneur Speaker Series. And I want to, at the outset, acknowledge Nancy Tula, who is the faculty director of the Urban Studies program, and they are the primary sponsor for this course. So we have a lot to thank Nancy for, and good to see her coming up tonight. What I want to do is just give a brief introduction to the basic ideas of social innovation and social entrepreneurship to kind of orient the course. But I'm going to do that very quickly, and then I'm going to turn it over to Melanie Edwards, who is the speaker series coordinator. She'll go over briefly some of the basic logistical information you need to know, and then we'll have some introduction from the student hub leaders, and then we'll have to hear from our illustrious speakers. So, first thing I want to talk about, what is social innovation? Part of the way that we've been thinking about social innovation is as both a process and an outcome. So it's the process of inventing, securing support for, and implementing novel or creative and useful solutions to important social needs and problems. Now, again, to be sort of both novel and useful, these solutions need to be either more effective, in the sense of better, or more just, more sustainable, as well as more efficient in addressing these important social needs and problems. Now, social entrepreneurship is kind of the flip side of social innovation, where social innovation focuses on the solutions and the process that generate the ideas that are put into action or built into organizations by social entrepreneurs. Social entrepreneurs are the individuals that we see in this process. The social entrepreneurs have been called change agents in the social sector, and again differentiated from business entrepreneurs in the fundamental sense that they're adopting or starting with a mission to create or sustain social value as opposed to personal wealth or value, economic value. Like business entrepreneurs, they recognize and relentlessly pursue opportunities. They engage in processes of continuous innovation and learning. They act boldly. This is, again, one of the things that is often used to differentiate entrepreneurs from managers in the corporate setting, is that they act boldly and in ways where they don't see themselves as being limited by the resources that they already control. So that means that they are very adept at gathering resources in order to pursue new opportunities. And the social entrepreneurs in particular give a heightened sense of accountability to the various constituencies. Largely, we can think of the main constituency as the public, but then also accountability for the outcomes that they generate. There are a variety of kind of ideas that I think are embedded in the notion of social innovation, social entrepreneurship. But one of the fundamental premises is the notion of dissolving boundaries, particularly between sectors, are increasingly becoming more permeable. And that's manifested in increased exchanges of ideas, capital, talent, values across sectors, nonprofit, public, and for-profit. There is an alternative focus on problems rather than sectors. Traditionally, within schools of management and in other professional schools, there's been a focus on either nonprofit management, public administration, business management, and corporate social responsibility. But increasingly, we see people focused on problems, whether it's the environment, whether it's poverty, whether it's development, whether it's something else. The focus is on the problem rather than on the sector. It's also inclusive in scope, so that it encompasses any individual or any institution who's involved in organizing activities or allocating resources in the pursuit of a social purpose. So that could be someone in a company thinking about corporate citizenship or social responsibility. It could be somebody in a nonprofit, or it could be someone in the public sector. Another dimension of dissolving boundaries is the idea that there's increasing interdependence between the sectors. So we see more cross-sector alliances and partnerships. I'm sure when Jim talks to you later, you'll hear about some of the ways in which his nonprofit interacts with businesses in the Valley. And we also see this sort of fundamental reorganization and restructuring of the roles and relationships between the sectors. So there are new non-traditional roles that nonprofits are playing in a variety of arenas. We see the government playing roles that are different than its traditional roles, and then also the corporate sector operating in different ways, and often in conjunction with nonprofits and public sector entities. So there's tremendous change here, but it's all fundamentally part of this phenomenon of dissolving of boundaries. All right, so a quick overview. The course is basically a lecture and discussion series. It's going to feature the ideas and practices of leading social entrepreneurs, but above and beyond the ideas and the practices that they reflect in their organizational experience, they'll also talk about the kind of personal perspectives and values and experiences that they've had in trying to change the world and trying to make it a better place. And part of the hope there is that it will serve as a source of inspiration, a source of insight for many of you who may be thinking about starting your own social ventures or joining existing ones. And so there'll be recurring themes that have to do with the creation and development of social initiatives and social programs. Okay, so that's all I have to say. I'm going to now turn it over to Melanie, who will go over some additional things very quickly.
Thank you. We have a real stellar lineup this year. I think for you guys, very diverse, probably the most diverse that we ever had lineup this year. So I'm really looking forward to this. You guys are really into something fantastic. We range from human rights to healthcare to education and environmental, just the whole spectrum. And how the world work will be, as the speakers, at the end of the speakers, you'll have at least 30 minutes to do a lot of questions and answers. Maybe each speaker is different. I think they might take questions as you go. But we want to make this a real up-close and personal experience as a speaker. This is your chance to really go, one-on-one, stand in the shoes, if you will, of a social entrepreneur. Try it on and see if this is your temperament as well, or is some kind of team that you'd like to be a part of. So the whole purpose of this is really, guys, to get the social entrepreneurs out of the field and in front of you to really interact and kind of see what it's like. It's not only how they run their organization, but how they think and what really motivated them to do what they do. And so feel free to ask all these questions, up close and personal. So a couple of course fundamentals to let you know. And you guys saw when you came in and picked up the syllabus, there's a sign-in sheet. So it's a one-unit class, satisfactory, no credit, and sign up on your sign-up sheet. But most importantly, make sure you're signed up on Access. Without that, you can't get credit around here at Stanford, as most of you know. So if you're here, make sure that you sign up and you want to continue taking the class. The attendance is 8 out of 8 classes. You must attend 8 out of the 10 in order to get that credit for the class. Now, without further ado, I'm just going to move right on over to letting you guys know something that you probably don't from this, unless you really look at the syllabus. And that's this course is really designed and organized and led by your very own students. And in particular, there are 4 organizations that have really come together this year to bring this speaker series to you. So you'll see limited viewing of me, and you'll see more of them as you go forward now. But the first of it is, I want to introduce, is the Social Venture Club. Stacey Walter, you guys can come down here, and they're going to say a quick thing about their organization. Second is, if I can bring down Whit Fowler from the Engineers for a Sustainable World. And Henry Sue from the BASIS Social Entrepreneurs Challenge, and then Fusion Johnny Fowler, the president of Fusion, the Future Social Innovators Network. Each of them are going to say a quick word about what the organization does, but after the speaker series tonight, after our guest speaker, please go outside. There'll be tables set up where the representatives will be there to answer questions about their student organization. Feel free to sign up. They all have phenomenal listservs that keep you posted on different workshops and events that are coming up. Without further ado, that's the Stacey. Hi, I'm Melissa Casey Waller. I'm one of the co-presidents for the Social Venture Club for the DSC, the business school here at Stanford. And just a little overview of our club, we focus on 5 major areas where we really feel that business students can apply our business skills to the social environment to make a social impact. 5 areas that we really focus on are social entrepreneurship, socially responsible investing, corporate social responsibility, nonprofit management, and philanthropy. So it's kind of like our 5 circles, as Professor Phillips mentioned, all those blending boundaries. We felt that that was really the areas that students were interested in, but very willing to explore that even more. So for any first years who are here that I maybe don't know, we're having our table open on Club Day from 10 till 2 here on Wednesday, and I hope you come by and re-sign up.
Hi, I'm Whit Fowler. I'm an event coordinator for ESW, the Engineers for a Sustainable World. I guess our mission is really to try and get engineers to work on problems involving sustainability in the environment, socially, and economically. And I guess one of the reasons we're reaching out and try to be part of this community is that as engineers, we sort of pride ourselves on problem solving and whatnot, but we usually don't have a clue as to what problems to actually go solve. But just an example of some of the things that we do is over the course of the summer, there were a number of students from our organization that went to the Andaman Islands for a tsunami relief effort, and they were really working closely with the local community there and helping them to build a water purification and distribution network and facilities. So those are just some of the types of things that we do. After this is over, I'll be outside if anyone has any questions or wants to get on a detail list. Thank you.
And I'm Sumlin. I'm here to represent BASIS. And BASIS, as some of you may know, is an organization that runs competition every year. There's 3 components. There's the regular traditional business competition for any entrepreneurial venture. There is the invention and innovation, where if you have a new invention app, you can do something with it. And the last one, which is probably the most relevant here, is a social entrepreneurship challenge, which if you have some idea of something that you want to create, you can basically get involved in this competition, propose a business plan, we'll help you develop it through the year, and basically 6 business plans get put through a lot of training, a lot of help, and kind of advice throughout the whole year, and at the end, the winners will receive money to partner. So we hope that you will get involved and actually participate, and I believe the website is also listed on your so you can go there for more information.
So many introductions tonight. I promise we're almost through. Hi, my name is Johnny Fala, and I'm the president of the Teacher Social Innovators Network here at Stanford, our fusion. We're one of the co-organizing groups for this event this year. And actually, first, what I want you to know is that traditionally this event in the past has been organized just between SEC and Fusion. But we have seen that sort of organically this movement is growing so quickly on campus, the need to really pull in additional organizing forces to really open up the dialogue between all of the representative factors here at Stanford. And so that's why we're bringing on some extra groups this year. So first, I also wanted to say welcome and thank you for coming and being part of that, and so hopefully we can grow together. My organization, Fusion, sort of acts as the kind of conduit of information and connecting point between student groups at Stanford, students themselves, and then organizations in the community, nationally and internationally, interested in social entrepreneurship. And so our own mission is to inform, inspire, and involve the next generation of social entrepreneurs. And really how we do that is through partnerships with academic programming at Stanford, so advocating for things in the classroom to engage students in that sense. Also in their extracurricular activities, so partnering with these other fine student groups here to really give you an out-of-the-classroom experience either during the rest of your stay at Stanford or around the area. And then third, through internships and actually real-life experiences. And through the Haas Center for Public Service and other avenues, we are able to provide internships for up to 120 students that are even paid over the summer in social entrepreneurship. And so what we are is sort of the information source for all of you. And that we're sort of the main connector between these forces that are really starting to come together. So that's what this is all about. And with that, I'm going to make just one more introduction this evening. and I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for the evening. His name is Jim Fruchterman, and he comes to us all the way from Palo Alto today. But don't let that fool you, because he is an incredible individual. If you've not heard of this organization yet, Benetech, you will very soon, and you'll be very, very impressed. Jim has an extensive history working first with technologies for the blind, enabling people to read books actually for the first time, and have much easier access to written materials. Jim also, through Benetech, is working on the Human Rights Project, and has won the support of many, many fabulous organizations and other people in the field. So I'm going to let him tell the real story, so without further ado, please welcome Jim Fruchterman.
So I understood the emphasis in these evening series is to give you more of the personal perspective and practice of social entrepreneurship as opposed to perhaps more of the theory and background that other people are more specialized in. And it's been a wonder for me to actually learn that there was a theory behind some of the things that we did and why certain things that we did didn't work. But we'll find out about that a little bit later. And that's one of the great things that you guys have exposure to is this movement, these issues are front and center. And I think that if you choose to start a social enterprise or go in an entrepreneurial direction in the social sector, you won't be doing it alone. You'll have peer support, you'll have connections, you'll have funders who know what you're talking about. So, but I'll tell you a little bit about the journey that led me here. And started in school. I went to Caltech, and I was an engineer. And I had this problem. I couldn't understand how I would ever come up with a good idea. Because when you're walking around, you feel like So, but I was in this class, it was an optics class, and we were learning about pattern recognition. And the example being used was how to make a smart missile. So, got this TV camera that knows the bomb, right? And you've taken a picture of your target, and you stick it in the nose of the bomb, and the electronic guides the bomb in and blows it up. I thought, this is cool technology. What else could you do with it? So I went back and I was doing this project for the course, and I thought, you can use pattern recognition to make a reading machine for the blind. But it was the one idea that I'd actually come up with in school. So I ran over to my professor and I said, that's a great idea. We're going to use that technology talking about the smartphones. We're going to use it to make reading machines for the blind. He said, well, Jim, that actually Professor Hessling, who's now at Stanford. The CIA and the NSA have this technology. They use it to spot, words in documents. And here's the limitation of technology. It probably won't work. But really, good job. Bummer. What an idea. So I came here. Okay, came to Stanford, and I was an engineering student. I lived at the Brothers Memorial, and I was going to get my PhD. And I started entrepreneurship talk series in 1980, a long time ago. And the second speaker had started a private rocket company in Sunnyvale. And so I took a leave of absence and joined the private rocket company, and the rocket blew up on the launch pad. And I was a chief electrical engineer, but my job was fine. They push a button, something happens with the aero astro folks. What happened? We blew up on the launch pad. This is a side note. And I said, gosh, I don't want to go back to school. If you can start a private rocket company, you can start anything. So I started to start my own private rocket company. I was 22. No one gave about $300 million. So my partner, my former boss in the rocket company, said, I've got this buddy at HP Labs, and he wants to make a chip that can read anything. And I said, you can make a reading machine for the blind with that if you actually can do it. So I was sold. I was like, hey, technical rockets, I want to build reading machines. So we got together, and to make a very long story short, in the 80s, we raised $25 million in venture capital, and we built the leading optical character recognition company in Silicon Valley. And we didn't know what we were doing, that's typical, but we kind of invented our way to make a machine that could read anything. But my secret passion was this reading machine for the blind idea. And so I was the VP of marketing, my best friend, my former boss, the VP of engineering, and we built a reading machine in the basement lab sort of thing. And it would scan a page, and our technology would actually figure out the words on the page and make like word processing documents. So that was the optical character recognition. And then we had this really bad voice synthesizer that in a very mechanical way just 80 on a tiny, there was really worse than that. And it was cool. The reading machine worked. So we showed it to our investors. We put venture capitalists on our board, and they go to the demo. They say, "It's really good. Jim, you do marketing. How big is the market for reading machines for live?" Well, we think it's about $1 million per year. Oh, exactly. What's the connection to our $25 million year firm? So I've been working on trying to answer that question for the last 15 years. And that's actually the Benetech problem. That's the problem that we're trying to solve in the social entrepreneur, is there's a huge gap between what's possible with technology and what's sufficiently profitable for a high-tech company to take on. And actually, it has been, for this company, actually my first 5 years there was a CFO. And, if it's not a $100 million a year market opportunity minimum, if it's not a 40% return on investment, it doesn't get done. And so there's a huge gap between 40% return, $100 million market, something that breaks even, and something that, maybe can be done on a partially subsidized basis. That's a huge space. And if you're an engineer, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an innovator, you come up with a great idea, and it doesn't make money, you put it on the shelf, because we've given you, or recently, no models for what to do with the technology that falls in that gap. And so that's the social entrepreneurship challenge that I'm into. How to take technology and apply it to all these great social applications that don't make enough money to get a high-tech company or a venture capitalist excited enough to invest in it. So it turns out that the one that I picked was the reading machine supply, because it was the thing I really wanted to do. So I spent probably 1 or 2 years after my investors told me why this wasn't a good idea and why PR wasn't a good enough reason to do it. And I finally, we were a venture capital company, so we fired presidents every couple of years. And so after about 8 or 9 years I was there, we were on president number 4. He just arrived. I said, "Well, Jim, what are we going to do?" He said, "Well, actually, I've done this enough, I'm going to bring it up." And he was really worried that I would compete with the company. I said, "Well, what can I do to keep you from competing with the company?" I said, "Well, I want to do this reading machine for the blind, but I keep getting turned down." He said, "No problem. You can do the reading machine for the blind. Time enough to be." So actually, they paid me for 6 months, and they gave me a really, really deep discount on their obsolete reading machine product. And they gave me trade credit. And so, one of the problems with starting a business is where does money come from? So it turns out that my own company, which is now Stanford, which is like the #1 OCR company, and Hewlett-Packard, and Digital Equipment at the time, they the voice of the center, each gave me a deal where I didn't have to pay them right away. And that $1 million market, I was wrong. Actually, I've been involved in lots of startup businesses. This is the only one that exceeded business plans because our expectations were set so low. Within 3 years, we were a $5 million a year business, and we were making money. And we didn't have to raise any capital because I could sell the product right away to my customers. Oh, no problem. I can't offer credit. And HP and Calera gave me 60 days to pay. So with a $2,000 loan to the organization, extended credit, 6 months of severance to me, we were able to start a $5 million a year business that sustained itself for more than a decade. And we sold more than 40,000 reading machines, reading a dozen different languages in over 60 countries. And for the first 10 years, I thought I was the only nutcase in Silicon Valley trying to run deliberately nonprofit technology companies. You know about accidentally nonprofit technology companies. Lots of them. We were deliberately nonprofit. And we were successful at it. So this was actually, after we were doing this about 10 years, we kept making, we were actually quite profitable. And every time we made a lot of extra money, we would cut back into the product. Because, we would do more engineering, more outreach, more development, all this cool stuff. And unfortunately, if you run a break-even business, you have no money to do anything new. And we tried to do one thing new. We had this great invention of talking GPS to the blind and what people that they were and what they were. But it was costing us $25,000 a month, and it was diverting our engineering from our core products. And so we had to put it on the back burner. And I said, "Gee, this is terrible. There's all these things we could be doing, but we don't have any money." So we came up with a plan. We called it the Benetech plan. How are we going to actually go out and do this again? And about this time, this is 1999, our plan was we were going to raise all this money from .com billionaires. There were a lot of them. And they were all just very tiny check. And so we came up with this plan, and about this time, someone came to me and said, I want to buy a reading machine for my business from you. And I said, no, go away, we're a nonprofit, we don't want to do that. And so a month later, he came back and said, tell me about your aspiration. This is how people get past your initial, when you sold something. And so I said, well, I want to set up this nonprofit to do this again. And he said, well, we can do that for you. So really, yeah, you and your engineering team can stay in the nonprofit. We'll give you $5 million. We'll buy it from you. Your engineering team you have to lease back. We'll rent them for $1 million next year. And you can go out and do all those great things. Cool, this is great. So we did the deal. We actually sold the company 5 years ago. My nonprofit stayed, and I and my engineering team, we leased back our programmers. The .com bubble popped, so it's easier for them to find engineers. So after a year, we started putting our engineers on the project. And we started a handful of new projects. And it actually turned out to be a handful for some other reasons I'll get to. But this might be a good time for me to pause. So I just accelerated you through start the company, I skipped over another startup company. What happened is I ran both for 5 years and decided I liked the nonprofit world better, so I got my first nonprofit, and so now it's 5 years ago, and we're getting to the Benetech part. But I want to pause and say, any questions? How do you do that? You know, is it allowed? Is it legal? But if there are no questions, you feel free to know. Yeah.
I'd like to know about the outcome. How many machines did you sell? How many blind people actually used it? What was the adoption rate?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple concepts. How many units do we sell? And we sold 40,000 units half of the time we sold the business. We actually get a continuing royalty from the for-profit acquirer. And part of the deal was that they were going to sell more and keep prices the same or lower if we sold stuff. Because they had 10 salespeople and we had 1.5. So, and we get royalties to it now. So actually sales are like more than double in the first couple of years. So we hit our, sort of our goal of reaching more people. When we started, between 100 and 200 people a year were getting reading machines from Xerox, which had about a $15,000 reading machine. So, and we bought it at under $5,000. So we saw a huge increase in our people getting reading machines. And the second part of that question is technology management. One of the things that happens with technology, especially when it's given to people, is they don't use it. And since our model was not charity, not giving technology, instead bringing it to an affordable price, the technology benefit rate with our reading machines were under 10%. And typically with donated technology, at least at the studies we were getting at the time, it was more like 40 to 50%. So, and this is for sometimes very expensive gear. So that was another measure that we used. And the last thing is our distribution channel, the majority of it were people with disabilities themselves. And this is something we did from our market research. It turned out that when we hired a blind person to be a field sales rep, this is companies selling them empowerment technology, but no one kind of got that mismatch. So when we showed up, we were able to take on a bunch of people with disabilities, with great education, business skills, just to get a chance. And so we built probably, I'd say, 30 or $40 million plus a year revenue businesses for people with disabilities. Actually, they built them. We provided them with their backbone product. Any other questions? Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you got the discount from the trade credit?
Okay, so I'm the former VP of marketing of this company, and essentially the trade deal I got with my current company was in exchange for me not competing with them in higher rail arrangements. So they were kind of over a barrier, which they didn't realize they really weren't, but I took advantage of it. Hewlett Packard was my major OEM customer, and so I went to the head of the division that sold scanners, and I said, I know you're not supposed to do this at HP, but I'd like you to sign a direct OEM deal with the best discount you ever gave anyone, and let me sell your scanners. And then I went to someone at DEC and convinced them to give me a license to build their board much more cheaply than they could and pay them a modest royalty fee. So essentially, I was mainly trading on personal connection, relationships. And if I got to the corporate case, this is not a market to go after otherwise. It'll make your employees feel good. All these things sort of paid off. And that's actually, when I go to our larger case, we do this over and over again. That's actually our core model. Yes?
Do you have any experience or interest in wine?
I'm unusual in the field of having no personal connection to blindness before I got started. So in my case, it was simply, I have one idea in college. And then I did some research, and blind people actually told me about all the things that I thought were true that were completely wrong, and but they still want the product. The product is really useful. But I'd say that easily a majority of the people who start companies in the disability field either have a disability themselves or have a strong personal connection to disability, which is what motivated them to actually try and solve the problem. Okay, I'll take another question and then I'll keep rolling forward. Yes?
In your opinion, can social entrepreneurship go hand in hand with like personal entrepreneurship, or do you recommend it be limited to nonprofits?
Actually, I'm very flexible on organizational structure. I think you come up with the idea and you figure out what you want to accomplish, and then you figure out what structure will make it happen. I think there are people who are socially motivated and make a decent amount of money. It tends to be less frequent in the social field because your customer base tends to be less economically empowered. Our staff, our goal is that they make close to average salaries and benefits of high-tech companies. And that's part of the sort of thing that Jim's talking about. I want to make this a career option. And a career option is not this or that. I mean, I can move from high-tech into our kind of nonprofit and back again without actually suffering financially. Of course, one of the things people figured out is that the odds of becoming a millionaire in a startup is not 1 in 2. That was 6 years ago. But instead, more like 1 in 500 or 1,000. So it's actually gotten a lot easier to recruit people for us. But if you can make a reasonable salary. But again, if you start a charity, I mean, and this is key. When I sold the parking stuff, which is the reading machine with one product line, and we got $5 million, it wasn't mine. And that took a lot of explaining to people. No, it's not my money. No, but you just sold your company. Actually, I sold the nonprofit enterprise. The money belongs to the taxpayers. And that's actually an important issue. So you can't get rich, you can make a living. And that's kind of the truth. Getting rich is your primary motivation. Being a nonprofit is not the place you should go. A few people do go there, and they sometimes end up in jail.
So why did you then try to leverage your product like to an efficient consumer base and then do the nonprofit on the side?
Okay, so I think it's a great question. And it didn't, I mean, about 5 years in, I thought, how would I have done this differently if it was business? And the answer is not much. But I didn't really know that. I just looked at this thing and said, this is not a market size that gets a venture capital size. So I can't actually go to any investor and say, I'm going to make you 40% return on investment. And I think that, building a $5 million a year business is nice, but it's not the stuff of which success in Silicon Valley is made. We made a small business with it, but in prior I didn't know this was the first time. And I just, I think I found what I need to do. I think there are people who are socially motivated. I think most of the people in the disability technology field are motivated by the fact that they have a personal connection and they want to make a business out of it. And believe me, many of those people can make a lot more money in a field other than disability technology. But, and they actually, but a few of them have made money, and that's okay. I mean, I have no problem with that. So let me shift gears then to, all right, so got $5 million in the bank. I can go off and do some of this cool stuff that I've been wanting to do, and I start trying to recruit people to get more engaged. Because up until now, we raised almost no money. We get, whatever support we get as a nonprofit has been technology donations. So I think our accumulated budget has been like $40 million, and we had raised $300,000 in cash over the first 11 years. It was almost nothing. But millions of dollars in kind support. Chips from Intel, scanners from licenses from people. But we need to start talking about money. And my first angel investor for my first business, the original start business, blew me off. He said, I don't want to deal about nonprofits. I just want to invest in for-profit. Like the first one you started. Oh, I'm really sorry, Sean. But I met this great buddy, you should meet him. And so I went off and met this guy, turns out to be a prominent environmental investor, donor. I use the investor term, but most of them use donor. Pretty low key, but he said, this is really cool. He's got $3 million in the bank, or $4 million in it, you know. But I have some advice for you. Well, if you start a second social enterprise like the reading machines and wine business, I'll consider you better. I was really proud of that. And I loved it. No. Your job now is to do this 5 or 10 times in the next 5 years. And to help encourage 100 people to start social enterprises like what you started over the next 10. So that's your job. And your job is no longer to be the general manager of a single social enterprise, which is what you just did for the last 10 years. Your job is to help people who are at the place in their career where you were 10 years ago. And guess what? You're going to have to raise money, and you're not going to get to do the fun stuff, like actually designing things, but you can make a much bigger impact on the world. And it's a great idea. I'm glad I thought of that. No, but it was actually sort of appealing, because part of this transition was how do we go out and make more good in the world. And we wanted to do it in other fields. So one of the things we did, we changed our charter from being disability specific to where we could work in any nonprofit area. But still is a charity, still is a nonprofit. But we specifically wanted to work in human rights fields for reasons that I'll get into in a second. But there were dozens of ideas of projects that failed to meet this for-profit goal that needs to get done. So the first one you can think of as sort of Napster meets Amazon meets Talking Books, and called Bookshare.org. And the idea actually came to me via my teenage son. At the end of 1999, this thing called Napster ended up on our home computer. And I said, Jimmy, what is this thing? Oh, it's cool, it plays music, make some music. So where'd you get it? I got it from Chris, he lives 2 rows down. Oh, but Dad, why did he get it? Oh, his mom, she's the CEO of Napster. Oh, what's Napster? So anyway, he shows me, and we start downloading music, playing music, and ooh, this is so cool. This is totally illegal. Very cool. And so we got to take this off, I'm a software guy, apparently copying music up, and ooh, that's really cool. Well, I did some research. It turns out that under U.S. copyright law, it's legal to set up a solution like that for providing books to blind people. Which is a field I've just been into the last 11 years. And the thing I knew about my customers, if they had a choice between spending 3 hours scanning a book and having somebody else give them the book already in accessible form, they'd rather not spend 3 hours scanning a book. They hate scanning books. But this is what you had to do. But if we could provide a legal way for all the people who are scanning books around the country, those 40,000 customers, so that if it's scanned once, no one will ever have to scan it again. That would be very cool. So we went to the publishers and we said, we've got this great idea. Bookster! Actually, someone talking about calling it Bookster. Very important. Publishers. That was the guy. Bookshare. Okay. I actually did this every time. And so we went there and we said, it's a great idea, it's in the copyright law, that it's legal for a non-profit to provide books in special formats without paying royalties or getting commission. And they said, yeah, but that law wasn't supposed to apply to master legislation. So we're just saying we can't. And the General Counsel of the Publishers Association said, no one ever came and told me they were planning on stealing my stuff in advance of the war. It's a social bargain embodied in copyright law, intellectual property agreement. Yeah. So we cut some deals to make the publishers happier. And the big thing was, don't screw their main market. We can do the social market. We can help disabled people, they're all for that, but just make sure those books don't leak into the mass market and keep them from selling. So, of all the publishers, guess who were the most frantic about this idea? You guess it? Which part of the publishing industry thought this was the worst idea they'd ever heard? Bingo! They said, let me get this straight. There's a classroom full of college students who don't pay for their music, and the one kid who's dyslexic gets a $130 textbook for free. And so anyway, they kind of threatened us. So we actually stayed out of textbooks for our first 2 years of launching Bookshare. And so finally, we built up enough track record, and because it became more and more a legal mandate, that students with disabilities have to have books, and schools were still scanning. Schools like Stanford still scan textbooks. It's a giant pain. And textbooks are really hard to scan. I can scan a novel, it's nearly perfect. I scan a textbook, it's unusable, because they're so complicated, it's so big, there's so much markup, all that kind of stuff. So, anyway, so that's Bookshare. Right now, it's, even as a business, it's about $700,000 a year in budget. We generate between $200,000 and $250,000 of that in revenue. So it's paying for about 40 to 30%. It's on a really steep growth curve, so we expect to break even within a couple of years. And basically, you go on the web, you type in a title or an author, just like on Amazon, you find a book, and if you've proven to us with bona fide disability and pay us $50 a year, you can download as many books as you like. And we also try to do software that reads that book out to you. So that's Bookshare. And it's another example, and and I don't get to run. Someone else is the general manager of Bookshare, and she runs around and does all this stuff, and my job is to raise money, so she's doing that, and so she can keep on building a business while I'm spending 80% I have raising money, she's spending 10% of the time. And that really at the core is the kind of stuff we do over and over and over again. There's intellectual property, and at the core is high tech. Content, software, it costs us almost nothing to replicate it, so we have a lot of flexibility. We have a social outcome that the people who own the intellectual property, the publishers, the authors, they don't want to go after it, and they probably deep down don't have a problem with it. And we use that to build a break-even business. Hopefully it'll be about $1 million a year break-even business in a couple of years. And then we won't have to keep going back and raising money to keep it going because, like our original social enterprise, it will keep generating income. And the other thing is, the people paying the bills are the users. Okay? So we're kept honest in the same way that market forces keep you honest. If you build a cruddy product, no one uses it. If you're a cruddy charity and you're giving away stuff for free, people will still work with you. But if you're a business and you make cruddy products, no one will do it. If you're a social enterprise, if you're a hybrid point, you have to actually be accountable to your users. And they will walk away. And so you have to listen. You have to give great customer service. A lot of the things that you would do if you were trying to build a business. And we try to keep that in mind. Because the power dynamic is different. We're not just selling charity. We're not saying, oh, you poor, disabled, deprived, whatever adjectives patronizing people tend to fill in, versus you need my charity. It's instead, hey, I'm here for Silicon Valley. I'm here to help you. How can I help you? Tell me what your real problems are, what I think your problems are, and can I actually come up with a tool to make you more effective in a social outcome? So I'm going to pause for a second and answer any questions about Bookshare, and then I'll tell you about 3-4 more things, and then we'll go into the real question and answer session. So, okay, I'll just be charging for it. Save up those questions because we have good one. Okay. So the second project was human rights. In the early 90s, there was a New Yorker article about the El Mozote massacre in El Salvador. And so in the early 80s, more than 500 peasants in a single village were wiped out by a U.S.-trained battalion of Salvadorian military. And it was so bad that no one on the left or the right believed that it actually happened. So it was exaggerated. There was some news about it, but effectively it was so outlandish that no one actually believed it. And so for 10 years, essentially was, people didn't really believe it. And then in the early 90s, a team of Argentinian forensic scientists who had experience with their civil conflicts and discovering bodies went and excavated El Mozote and found more than 500 bodies. And so it was true. And the story of how this had been covered up and not believed came out. And I went out with my buddies here in the north, and we're having to think, how do you protect a village full of peasants being murdered by the rebels or the army or the paramilitaries? And we tried to come up with every high-tech solution. Force field. And we're peace. We think and then we go, what's the solution? Okay. So, we reached the conclusion that just about everyone who's in the right field, or you reach, the most powerful weapon against injustice, against human rights abuses, the truth. Delivers people who can do something about it in an authoritative way, quickly, so that pressure can be brought to bear on the perpetrators of human rights violations and or their sponsors, and actually get it to stop. Maybe someday, a long way down, you might even see justice, but we settle for just having fear of human rights violations. So I went around and I talked to all the human rights groups. I also registered the domain witness.org. You do that, you know. You're going to hold witness. And I found out the Early Blood Witness Project. Peter Gabriel was there, and was handing out video cameras. Okay, well, I don't think so. All right, you guys are. So, gave them the domain. We named our project Mars, just to prove we're doing it. The original thing. And we went around and talked to all the human rights groups. And we actually talked to them for a fair length of time until it finally got serious in the late 90s, well, actually 99, when we were getting really south. And we did an analysis of the human rights field. Here's an entire industry that does nothing but process information. And in the late 90s, if you actually talk to them, other than the groups at the very top of the human rights field, you know, Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, they had IT departments, but almost nobody else in human rights had information technology. Now, mortgage banking. Mortgage banking. That's a processing information industry, probably about as big. There's 40 people running software for mortgage bankers because they got money. Grassroots human rights groups, not so much money. So no one was running software for them. And, you know, we went out actually in 2000 and we talked to human rights groups in Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Guatemala, Russia. We talked to human rights activists from Africa, and we found out what they really did, what really happened in human rights information, which is mainly it got lost. Someone came in and put out their story of human rights violation, and it didn't go anywhere. Why? Because the groups were in business, they were suppressed by the government, they were out of money, their buildings got burned down. We met with one group in Sri Lanka, they had lost 6 years of violence to termites. You know, it was dispersed shed and termites ate all the files. And that seemed to us to be the worst thing we could imagine. Here's this, the core asset of a human rights group is information, and nothing happens to it. It gets lost. So we created a software solution called Martis, and it was originally going to be, we thought it was originally going to be, you know, satellite imagery and drones and, you know, data pictures, GPS, and when we actually talked to groups, we were having a hard time managing our text and our fish get lost. So we came up with a very simple tool that looks like email. It's like Outlook and Spreadsheet or like that. It has really strong cryptography built into it, but in a way that the user doesn't necessarily have to know. And use a little crypto because crypto is so complicated the user won't use it, even when they're like at risk. They still could use it. Mafia doesn't use it, but not my method. And so, but we made it really simple to use. We gave free off-site backup. Originally, we were going to host the backup servers, but no one knew who we were. And one of the problems is, say you're from the U.S. with crypto software helping the rights movement, people might not believe you. You know? So we made the software open source, and we partnered with trusted groups to actually offer backup services. So in some places, it's like the Open Society Archive, which is funded by George Soros and Budapest, which are probably major server. An independent media group in the Philippines. The Catholic Church runs the server in Colombia. Out of the Archbishop's office, which is pretty fortified. And this is all over the world. So this is our second major human rights group. Now, second major project. Since then, we also, and of course, I say acquired, but in the nonprofit world, I don't think the group moved from Michigan to Stanford. So this group moved to us, which is the leading high-end human rights group. And so these are the people, if you run a truth commission or a major genocide prosecution, they're your database people. And our team worked on all the major truth commissions. The head of our program was the lead expert witness against Slobodan Milosevic and his work on his trial. You know, and we're the people who help strengthen the cause of human rights by adding essentially analysis and powerful information to anecdote the story of human suffering. And we think with both you can make a stronger argument against human rights violations, and in some rare cases you might even get justice. So, that is the two main areas that we're active in, and I'm going to reel off a bunch of things that are, first, things that we're working on at the level of at least 100 grants. I've already found a grant in each of these. We have a project that teaches reading, and it's oriented towards the non-expert teacher and the person who's learning to read as a teenager or and it's being taught by a relative or a friend who doesn't know how to teach reading. Because when you're an adult or a teenager and you can't read, you're not being taught by a primary literacy teacher anymore. So it actually was invented at UNC Chapel Hill, and the professor there thought about starting her own company. She went to business school, and we talked about it. In the end, she decided that she was really an educator and not a business person, and she asked us to actually market her product. So we're rolling that out for free later this year. Her actual core interest is students with developmental disabilities, kids with Down syndrome and autism. And so part of our social deal with her is we'll focus on that group first, and then we'll go off and work on adult literacy and literacy globally. So that project is getting launched later this year with a free site, and then based on the feedback we get, we'll probably go out with a paid service. One of the attractions, same market in general, same infrastructure, same kind of staff, same business model. So we could actually launch, instead of a new project for $2 million, which is different, we get it launched maybe 3 to 5 million. Another project we've got is the environmental movement. For really large biodiversity groups like Nature Conservancy, World Wildlife Fund, came to us and said, we heard we did the human rights field, could you do something for our field people as well? Because if you're in an environmental group, almost all the IT budget goes to headquarters. And it turns out that the most advanced software solution for people who run major conservation projects in the field is an Excel spreadsheet that someone in a field office in Nature Conservancy took up and was sharing around the field. And they really wanted someone to build on this solution. So, and the good thing about this is they brought money. So that's a project that we're working on, and now we're going to get significant funding. And again, it's the sort of thing where the funding will come from our customers and philanthropic investors like the Hewitt Foundation or the Moore Foundation. Moore's funded it so far. We're working on Field Ready for Hackers or that's major funding groups. We also have a humanitarian landmine detector project. This is a project, and this is not atypical. That ideas come from outside of Benetech that we have. You know, we're just good at getting things done and building things. Other people come up with the ideas, and then when they figure out there's no business model and they're frustrated, they hear about it. Now, this is not the scalable solution to this problem. The scalable solution is we got to go out and target it. Okay. Not now, in a couple of years. And if you're in a corporate position, you know, make it so that we can license your IP. Someone else can license your IP and make it happen. But in any case, the head of our military, is a group called DARPA, the R&D arm of the U.S. military. We're working on landmine detectors. And she had funded, 8 or 10 different projects. And I met her at a conference because I went to hear the session of all the groups that she had funded. And afterwards I said, you put something. Hey, I'm from Silicon Valley, and it's a little bit about building our company, and how does that work? And explained. And a month later, I got a 5-page business plan summary of how she thought we should make humanitarian landmine detectors based on the technology that she had funded. Because as she said, military contractors can't go after a $5 million a year market. And that's what humanitarian money is. So, right now, 4 to 5 years later, and last year we started executing on her business plan. And we actually kept talking to groups until we thought the technology was close enough, and now we're working on getting licensed. And it's not easy, you know, because there's no money in it. But most companies, when we approach them with something like this, will say yes. And if this particular large 2-letter government contractor doesn't give us things, we'll put pressure on them like anything, because how do they stand up and say, no, we deny our technology, people might actually stop using data mine. I mean, from the oil mine. This particular technology is less and better than the existing technologies, which are either dogs or metal detectors, which are safe. So that's the Benetech story. I'm happy to talk about technology. I'm happy to talk about social entrepreneurship. I've had the benefits over the last 5 years of meeting a lot of social entrepreneurs. It's been about 5 years that I found out that they existed. And they're, you know, the people who come from very different backgrounds than I do, but think the same way. How can we solve problems? How can we manage these things? How do we respect the people who want to help and create solutions that help them be successful in pursuing their objectives, whether they're education, employment, social justice, or simply fulfilling their personal interests. Thank you very much.